Hello and welcome to the Controller Talk podcast presented by Danfoss North America. Our goal is to bring you information about using Danfoss controls in the supermarket and warehouse industry, specifically in the US and Canada. We're doing these twice a month for now. You can catch these podcasts on Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, or as the saying goes, wherever you get your podcasts. I just like saying that. And it's also available through the Danfoss Ref Tools app, where you have the popular refrigerant slider, magnetic tool, and other gadgets. For the video version, check us out on Danfoss North America's YouTube page. Search for Controller Talk to see our video library. Library is one of the hardest words for me to say, just to let you know. I'm Dave Yoder along with Chris Brown. Well, Chris, we're back with our third of 3 interviews, and this will be an interview with a guy that many people know in the Mid-Atlantic area from his many years as the owner of LP Herman. Today's guest is Larry Herman, who is now owner of Redline Control Design. So he's still working in the supermarket controls industry, although the pace may have slowed a bit, but we'll see if that's really true. We'll find out how things have changed for him over the years and see where he thinks things are headed for the industry. Hello, Larry, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Sure. Is this the first podcast you've been a part of?
Yes, it is.
Okay, good.
My debut.
All right, we're honored. Hey, so as far as what you're doing these days, would you say you're semi-retired or full-time like all the rest of us?
I'm still full-time. I've got a few years to go. I'm still enjoying what I'm doing, and as long as the work keeps coming in, I'll be here.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Now, do you spend a lot of your time on job sites, or are you in the office more often?
I would say it's split between the two. If I'm doing any kind of commissioning or project management or surveying work, then of course I'm out in the field, and any type of blueprint review or design or programming, then I'm in the office.
Okay.
Hey, Larry. So when did you get your start in refrigeration?
A long time ago. When I was in high school, I took a VOTEC course at night to learn air conditioning and refrigeration, so I could get a good summer job when I was working, when I went to college. So I was able to get a really, high-paying job as an AC tech while guys were working, for pennies in McDonald's or something, and kind of just rode it all the way to where I am now. I've always liked mechanical and electrical systems and enjoyed refrigeration.
When did the controls aspect of everything, when did that come into play for you? Was it right away or was it after a while?
It was fairly soon. I just seemed to have an aptitude for wiring diagrams and understanding how things should work. And so, understanding the refrigeration side and figuring out the wiring side led me in this direction. And pretty much, after I'd been working in refrigeration for a number of years, the electronics revolution happened in the late 70s and early 80s. And I got drawn into working for one of the beginning control companies, Margot Controls, right away. Had the first Apple II computer I've ever seen sitting on my desk, and learned programming and all about electronic controls then. And, have watched the industry grow since.
It certainly has, that's for sure.
Right. So, Larry, if you think about today's controls, do you see the controls from today as being better or just more complicated than the ones, say, from 25 years ago?
I'd say they're better. In some ways, they're easier, depending on what you want to do. In some ways, they're not.
Yep.
The controls of a long time ago had a lot of capability, but it was really hard to extract that because you had to know all the ins and outs. Sometimes just to do some tasks that were above and, just a little above and beyond what the creators of the system had envisioned. With today's systems, although they're straightforward, if you're doing straightforward tasks, they can get quite complicated if you want to do involved procedures and sequence of operations. Although the manufacturers of the systems today realize that and have given you the tools to do pretty much anything you want, although those tools can be quite complex.
So, Larry, if you look at the controls from a grocery operator's point of view, what do you think they will be looking for in the future?
I think, and this has kind of been all along, the grocery operators are looking for a greater clarity of information. The more descriptive the alarms can be, the more information they can get. I know it was a big jump when years ago when you had the electronic floor plans come out where you could actually see cases that were an alarm blinking on a screen, and that was a huge help.
Right.
But today there are so many systems and there's so many alarms coming off of CO2 racks, let's say.
Yep.
The store operations people really don't know what's going on and just have no idea whether or not it's a nuisance alarm or their store is down and they have no refrigeration. So coming up with greater clarity information in that standpoint, in that aspect, I should say, is a big help. And then I think the more information that they can get and integrate into their systems, logging of alarms and temperatures where they can merge that data with all the other data they collect, sales and et cetera.
Yep.
That might be an avenue where they'd be interested in because, it seems like they're combining all the information in the store to try and, I guess, become more efficient and more effective at selling product.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So from your standpoint, the new guys getting involved in the industry here, where do you think they're getting the best education? Is it college? Is it the unions? Is it right there on the job experience?
Well, I guess it kind of depends upon what industry you're talking about, because if you're talking about controls, obviously it covers a large span of the mechanical industry. In industrial, I think guys start from service and maintenance and go in through some of the manufacturers' training courses for industrial controls. And there are industrial controls and PLC controls courses offered in college. For the supermarket, it's a little different. Having an installation or better, a service background to understand the operations of the system, and then getting training from other people, other senior mechanics on the job. And of course, the training courses that Danfoss and other manufacturers offer can be a big help to them. So it really depends upon which course that you take, whether you're in the supermarket or in industrial. But the biggest thing is you have to understand the basic underlying mechanical systems. If you don't understand that, you can understand how to, punch the numbers in the computer, but you don't really know what the numbers mean.
Sure. So, I mean, somebody new starting out, do you think they kind of have to come in being pretty good at everything, or maybe just some specialization on something like the control side or communication side, or maybe even something like a VFD when we're talking about these supermarkets?
I'm honestly not really sure about that. It seems like, at least in our industry, in the supermarket industry, the biggest split is between installation, which are basically, the fitters and other mechanics that install everything, and the service and startup guys. They're the guys who really need to understand the computer and understand how it works. And they're kind of called on to be the jack of all trades. So they need to know a little bit about VSDs and a little bit about basically the controls and how they communicate and how to troubleshoot them. I think the specialists are probably more for either very, very large companies or even, manufacturers who might have their own small division of techs that are specific to their own products.
Okay.
All right. So, Larry, what are you spending your time on now when you're not doing all this controls design and planning?
Well, I guess a couple of years ago, we decided to move to a more interesting house from what we had, the house that we raised our kids in. And we're out here in the rurals of New Jersey. Believe it or not, New Jersey does have some really pretty rural areas. So we have a ranch with a pool on 3.5 acres with kind of like a park-like setting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's working on a house and playing with the dogs and kayaking and kind of enjoying the time when I'm not working.
So you described your house as interesting. Does that mean that there's also bears out there sharing it with you?
I'm sorry, Dave, you'll have to say that again.
Yeah, or do you have bears out there with you with your interesting house?
Bears. Oh, I don't think there's any bears where we are, but there certainly are plenty of other wildlife, deer, coyote, groundhogs,
Okay.
that are unfortunately not fast enough for the dogs, but we deal with that.
And the dog's happy about it too. All right. Now, so when do you think you're going to be full-time retired?
That's a great question. I really do enjoy what I'm doing. I see staying full-time for maybe the next 4 to 6 years, and then depending upon how things go, slowing down a little bit. I mean, one of the things I am trying to do is pass the knowledge I have along to other people. That's part of what my company is trying to do. And because if you don't pass it along, then it goes away. And we do need more people coming up in this industry.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep. And if there's grandchildren in the equation, they tend to drive a lot of decisions from what I found.
Yeah, there is a grandchild in the equation, but unfortunately, my one son who is married and has our grandchild lives in Pasadena, California. So
Okay.
That's one of the reasons why I got to keep working. I like flying out there to see her.
Good deal. Well, tell you, Larry, it's been a real pleasure having you on. And of course, we wish you continued success in your full-time employment or even semi-retirement. But as you know, during our podcast, I usually throw a question at Chris to see if I can stump him. And he's usually getting a pretty challenging question. And we thought we would ask you a question as well. But, since you came up with the idea to even do these interviews, I thought I'd give you one that's maybe a little easier. So we'll see how much Danfoss knowledge is still retained out there.
Here's where the podcast crashes and burns.
Yeah.
Can't do any worse than me, Larry. Don't worry.
You could be 1 for 1 at the end of this, Larry. So what's the total number of boards that you can plug into one Danfoss communication module?
Memory serves me correct. It's 9.
That is correct. Yeah, you are now 1 for 1. Very good. All right. All right, Larry.
He's sweating like he was driving on the turnpike there.
That's
for a
right.
minute.
He was sweating like the Spice Girls on Jeopardy, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Well, Larry, thanks so much for taking time to be with us today, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you, but continued success.
Yep. Thanks, Larry.
Thank you very much, guys. Pleasure to do it for you. I'm enjoying your podcast a lot.
All right, great. Thanks, Larry. If you'd like to drop us an email with a suggestion for topics to cover, a question or comment, you can email us at ControllerTalkNorthAmerica@danfoss.com. On our next podcast, we'll get back to the things you need to know about one of our case controllers. Which one is still a mystery. Thanks for listening. Our studio and video engineers are Michael, don't call me Mike, Beckerman, and Jordan the Man Larsen. Our audio engineer is that international man of mystery himself, Raul Garcia, who we have not met yet. Our Romanian rotational global intern, who gets no credit at all for her hard work, is Maria. No last name, just Maria. Until next time, for Chris Brown, I'm Dave Yoder. Stay cool.